I will teach you when to pick Wukong and when not to pick Wukong. So let's get into it. First, we're gonna start with ranged top lanes, and we're gonna start with Jace, who's a top lane that's played all the time. Now, Jace is a champion that relies heavily on snowballing and not being able to get killed in lane. So Wukong is a fantastic pick against him because he's rather tanky. He got good regen, especially with Dawn's Shield level 1, which you're gonna buy. And he's extremely good at killing Jace after level 6 by catching him with his E to jump in, and then his ultimate to knock him up. Overall, a fantastic matchup for Wukong. Next up we have Teemo. Teemo is a champion that I would not recommend playing Wukong against. If Teemo plays really well, you can't do anything early, you're gonna get absolutely stumped. After level 6 you can one-shot him, unless you go Seekers and Armor. But if you go Seekers and Armor, then you're gonna lose again. Also, Teemo can go Exhaust against you, it's no problem for him, and if he does that, you cannot do anything. It's a very difficult matchup, and honestly, I would try and avoid it. Now we're gonna talk about Quinn. Quinn's a tad bit annoying, but it's not a bad matchup overall. What you can do against Quinn is sit back, farm safely and chill, get kills with your jungler, or you can use your TP to counter gank. So it's very important you save your TP and you try not to use it unnecessarily. If you do have to TP back to lane, of course you're gonna do that. But if you don't have to and you're only giving up a few minions by walking, remember to walk because she's going to roam at 6 and you want to counter gank with your teleport if you can. Now we have Kennen. Kennen is overall a really annoying top laner and he's actually pretty good against Wukong. It's very difficult for Wukong to all-in Kennen because he got a lot of CC and he's good at running away. And he's also a decent bit tanky. Now the problem is also, even if you use your W clone to avoid damage, if you get a Marg on you, he's just gonna W you anyway, so you take damage regardless. And his ultimate is obviously gonna damage you no matter what as well, which means this champion is really good into Wukong and you should try and avoid the matchup. Alright, it's Park time. It's time to talk about Gnar. Gnar is a champion that was recently buffed by games and he is extremely strong right now. Overall, again, this is a champion I think you need to avoid. The problem with Gnar is he can almost one-shot anyone after he gets his ultimate and he gets the big form and he uses it. So what you want to do if you get against Gnar is play really safe after 6. Before 6 you can try and beat him up. You can beat him every time he misses a Q or you dodge it. And then you can beat him up. But once he gets to 6, your goal is just survival and teleport plays. You don't want to try to beat up Gnar at this point because he might just one-shot you. And if there's an enemy jungler there, well, it's not going to look good for you. I've got the worst out of the bag, the ranged top laners are out, now it's time to talk about bruisers. So against bruisers, is Wukong overall good? I think pretty much yeah. So let's start out talking about Riven, the mechanical goddess. So against Riven, Wukong is actually extremely good because you have all-in potential, you're very strong, you can fight her. Early game, I would be a little bit careful, not too much, but a little bit. But then once you're 6, call up your jungler, get a kill, and if you get going, you can one-shot it over and over and over again. So once you get that small lead, you want to snowball, but before that, you want to play safe. And you want to play safe pre-6 because you don't have any CC, you don't have any engage. She does, so it's much easier for her to kill you with jungler than it's for you to kill her. Next up, we have Fiora, the one matchup that I always want to play Wukong against. Wukong destroys Fiora. She can't do anything. It's hard for her to predict your ultimate with her W. And the problem with Fiora is that a lot of matchups she wins without stunning people because she just needs the attack speed slow. But Wukong clicks ultimate and he doesn't need that attack speed slow at all. It doesn't do anything for him because he's spinning in his ultimate. So this matchup is perfect. You should always try to pick Wukong into it and you should just try and snowball because you're much stronger than her. Now it's time to talk about Camille, one of the most popular top laners right now. This matchup I would say is pretty difficult. So the problem is you get outscaled really late game. You're evenly strong early game. Mid game you're a little bit stronger, but it's not by much. So what you want to do here is you want to try and get a gank with your jungler, get a kill. And if you can do that, you snowball and can all in her at all times. Now one thing you need to think about is try and dodge a W. That's the entire thing you need to do. So if you use this W, you can E in and make big damage. If she doesn't use a W, you can just sit back and chill. The reason dodging W is so important is because every time she hits it, she actually heals a little bit. Okay, it's time for one of my old mains, Jax. So Jax is actually pretty difficult for Wukong. The problem is, if Jax plays perfect, he's gonna beat you. So what you want to do is you want to play safe, you want him to be pushing you in. The main place you want to do is sitting close to your turret and then trying to outplay his stun. If you can outplay his stun, you can kind of all in him and beat him. Also, it's very good to have jungle ganks with Wukong against Jax if you're close to turret. But if you're pushing him, you're gonna be in a rough situation. It's time for the final bruiser, my old beloved Aurelia. Aurelia is a matchup that Wukong absolutely stumps. You're much stronger than her. Now one thing to notice, when she gets 5 stacks, she can kill you. You have to be a little bit careful about that. But the thing is, you can always dodge the E stun with your W. It's really easy to do. So she should never be able to stun you, and you should always be strong on her at pretty much all times. Now one thing to note that you have to be careful about is Aurelia is super strong if she's defending at her turret, and she's able to get 5 stacks quickly and all in you, and then she can actually beat you. So just be a little bit careful about that one, and overall you should be winning. Now it's time for the dangerous juggernauts. Alright, first we're starting with Darius. Is Wukong good against Darius? Yes. Why is Wukong good against Darius? That's a good question. It's because Darius is a snowballing champion and Wukong can play safe with W. I would actually recommend you start W level 1 and you make him push you in. Now the thing against Darius is he's very easy to kill after 6, so your entire goal is just survive, farm, take the minions you can for free, and then after 6, you all in him with your jungler. Sometimes even alone, but mostly with your jungler. It's time for Zed. Zed is a good champion top lane, but he's not very good against Wukong. This is another good matchup for you. What you want to do here is, honestly, you can fight him at any point as long as you don't get stunned by his E. Have to be careful about that one. But overall, you should be strong on him at the majority of points in the game, and you shouldn't be afraid of him unless you potentially have a jungler helping him out. Alright, it's time for the Crocodile Dundee. This champion is loved in China and sometimes in Europe as well, not so much in NA, but he's pretty good against Wukong. The thing is, Renekton is super strong, and once he gets his first item, which is going to be a Blade of the Ruined King, he can actually almost one-shot you. Overall, if you get into a Renekton, you should be really careful. It's not that you can't play against him, but you can never 1v1 him, and he's just going to be stronger than you at all times. You have to outplay him via team fight and hoping your team does well. Alright, it's one of the most popular top laners right now, Aatrox. Aatrox is super strong, but Wukong is somewhat of a counter to him. The laning phase is almost even with Aatrox being slightly stronger, but you can make cool plays and you can beat him. What you can do is you can dodge his second Q with your E, and if you manage to do that, you actually win the trade, unless he got passive up. So be careful about that passive proc auto attack, and if he doesn't have that, you can win the trades. Now you also outscale an Aatrox, and what I would recommend you doing is you get your first item, which can be a Divine Sundra, can be a Trinity Force, or it can be Gordringer, depending on what you want. And then afterwards you go Executioners into a Chimpunk Chainsword. Having that anti-healing as an Aatrox is super important. It's just very vital that you don't bite too early and you don't bite too late. And the final Juggernaut is Garen. This is a matchup that honestly I would somewhat avoid. Garen is super annoying because the problem is he is one of the strongest stat check champions, which means he just beats you straight up in the melee fight. You ultimate him, he clicks W, and he just spins as well, and he doesn't really care that much. So overall, Garen is not the best champ to play Wukong against. It's time for the good old Guardians, the tanks. So first up, we are starting with Malphite. Is Wukong good against Malphite? He's alright, but he's not great. He's just okay at best. The thing is, Malphite is too tanky, so you can't really ever kill him. And Malphite will have massive pressure in teamfights, so overall I would somewhat avoid this matchup because it's really unnecessary to play it and there's much better champions to play against than Malphite. Alright, now for one of the most difficult matchups, Shen. Shen is very difficult for Wukong, not because you're weaker, but because you have to play amazing to actually beat him. You have to kind of be standing on the edge of Shenton and try and dodge it. If you do dodge it with either your W or just by walking away, then you can all in him and kill him. If you do get a kill, you snowball extremely hard and it's an amazing matchup. If you don't get a kill and you get killed instead, you're going to have an impossible time. He's going to keep taunting you over and over and over and all-inning you. So this matchup is super snowbally, and I would only recommend you to play it if you're good with Wukong. Now for the Dwarf of Doom, Ornn. Ornn is a decent matchup for Wukong. There's nothing wrong with it. You need Black Cleaver, of course. But overall, it's a decent matchup. There's nothing special about it. What I recommend is you dodge his Q. If you dodge the Q, you can kind of fight him, and then you should be alright. Alright, time for another difficult matchup, Sion. This champion you can beat, but you also have a quite high chance to lose against. If Sion is an OTP or play Sion a lot, you'll probably lose. If it's a normal Sion that doesn't really play the champion that much, you should be able to beat him. Now, things to note, you need to use your W to get out of his Q, Decimating Strike. And you also need to be able to ultimate it if you're fighting him. So you need to save a stack of ultimate if you know his Q is ready to be used. And then you can cancel him out. Question of the day. What kind of guide should I make more of? Do you guys want more guides like this one? Or do you want more champion guides? Or do you want more combo guides? Leave a comment below and tell me what you want me to make next. Because I'll listen to you guys and I'll make exactly what you want.